everyone, and thank you for joining us on this beautiful Monday morning. My name is 𝙾𝙗𝙾, and we're coming at you live from Bondi Beach, Sydney, Australia. And have we got a show for you today? But before I introduce you to our special guest, let us take a moment out to thank all of our great sponsors, starting with Tim Okasa from Child Eyewear. If you're after a premium quality pair of sunglasses, check them out online. Also, want to take a moment out to thank everybody from Nimbus Health and Wellness Studios right here in Bondi who've been with us since day one with all our retreats, our Honey and Handsome retreats, our one-day retreats, our lines only men's mental health retreats, and our footprints retreats. They provide us with the ice baths, infrared saunas, massage, and all the health and wellness treatments. If you're around the area, pop in, check them out. I'm sure you'll enjoy the experience. Finally, I want to thank everybody up at Up South Cafe who have been producing all our healthy and nutritious meals from acai bowls, detoxing smoothies, healthy nutritious wraps, and all the other delicious foods. If you're in Bondi, check them out. Pop in if you're feeling a little bit peckish. I'm sure they'll satisfy your taste buds. But getting back to today's live Zoom with the man himself, Cheyne Horan. Good morning, Cheyne. I know you've been up to a lot of different things, Cheyne, and I know you're a busy man. So it's great to have you here to be able to talk to us about all the great things you've been up to. But I thought we'd take a moment and allow you to share a little bit about your journey growing up in Bondi and sharing with our audience.
Well,
It's back.
Bondi is a great place to grow up. It's like, I was kind of lucky in the early days. Is Bondi was like one parent families. It was cheap rent. It was like a slum, and my my parents had split up, and they just decided, okay, we're going to move to Bondi, and so we moved around Bondi. We're in Wallace Parade. We're in Maribri Road. My mum was always sort of looking for somewhere where she could get a cheap rent. But then in those days, a lot of the surfers used to work at this place, William Brooks, and that's where my mum used to work. They used to make the phone books. So at night time, like surfers like Jeff Doig and a lot of the old Bondi crew, the rock crew, and all those guys, they used to work at the same factory as my mum. And at in the night time, they could do the telephone books, the old yellow pages and white pages, and they made extra money, so they'd work through the day and make the money at night. And my mum did that, and then she had such a great boss that each year he would give her a lump sum bonus, and then she goes, "Oh, look, I'm trying to buy a house." She knew about us. The kid, he knew about us. His name was RA, and he gave her enough money to help her put a deposit down, and my mum bought a unit in Lemrock Avenue for
Yeah.
about 38,000, and then wow, the doors just opened right up. Like I lived right, like I used to run down the beach from there. In the early days, I would get up super early in the dark from like Wallace Parade or Mariveri Road, and I used to ride my bike and then back up to Wonderland Avenue up at the southern end, and I'd pick up Joe Ingle each morning, right? And then we'd go surfing and have so many great surfs, like we get the right behind the bars, and just because Bondi shuffles all the time. And there was one day that was so perfect. I still remember it. I was about 14. Wind was offshore, and it was just barreling. Each wave you took off on, you just pulled in the pit. And anyway, this day I go up to Joe Ingles' house and I say, "Joe, let's go." And he goes, "Oh no, I'm studying for the tests, right?" And because we weren't scholars, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So Joe goes, "No, I'm studying for the test. Like I'm going to beat you in this test, sort of thing, because we were so competitive." And so anyway, I go down and Steve Corrigan shows up. Steve Corrigan was one of Bondi's best surfers. But when I was growing up, because we went to school, those guys surfed in the day. We didn't get to see them a lot. We'd see them on the weekends sometimes. Anyway, Steve came out in the water. We had the best surf together. It's like where him and I bonded as good mates. And so um, anyway, the test comes. We go and do the test, and and Joe and I think we got 30% out of 100. We both failed, and I've ended. So from that day, I just knew that day I kind of went, surfing's way more important to me than anything. And so then sort of, growing up around like going to Dover Heights, we used to have it at Bondi. In those days, you had first ramp, second ramp, third ramp crews, right? Then you had a car park crew, you had the rock crew, and then you had the crew that were um, at the swimming pool, right, in the baths. And then we had our crew was called the Bushill crew, and then over from us was the Rock Wall, which was like the Cranbrook guys, and up on our thing was like the Dover Heights, a few Waverley College kids, and Sydney High kids. So they had all these crews, and our crew was like 50 to 100 deep. And we were all so tight, and then we grew up when we got our first girlfriends, and it was just such a great upbringing. You'd buy a loaf of bread, and,
The fine
someone
diamond.
and someone would grab a banana, and you'd feed the whole crew. Like we'd be sitting there on the hill with a slice of banana, with a slice of bread with a banana in it. That was lunch. That'd do you all day. And then you'd get home just raid the fridge when you got home. So that was just sort of the early kind of days. And going to school at Dover Heights. I never went to school really. I kind of like after first form, I took 6 weeks off. And like when we got to the end of the year, that we finished our high school, and then there was 6 weeks until the actual school holidays started. And so there was about six of us: Andy Winner, Robin Hisco, and a bunch of other guys from Mark Balsam, a bunch of guys, in the early 70s. So we took that off. And one we used to surf in the rain. You'd come home, it'd be cold, and we'd all be just walking together, like, 6 or 10 of us back off the beach. And down Beach Road, that's where Robin Hisco had his house. So we were all hanging there for the holidays. Anyway, we're 2 weeks into that little 6 week genre, and I'm walking back, and as I'm walking back, at the gate of Robin's place is a school teacher with about six of our mates that we were all taking the whole time off. We'd already had 2 weeks off, and he's gone, um, you
You're a
know,
shame.
you got to get back to school. So they all went back to school. But as I'm walking back, I jumped in behind a couple of cars, right? And then waited till the teacher left, and then come back out, and they said, "Oh, the teacher said we all got to go back." I said, "I'm not going back." And they're going, "Oh, we all got to go back." So anyway, I never went back, and I had like 3 months holiday for Christmas. That's where my surfing just jumped, right? Because I had 3 months in the water, 2 or 3 times a day, 6 hours a day. Um, and so then the next year at school, I'd go to school, and I'd tick my name off, and I'd go to the beach. So I went to school for like 10 minutes a day, right? So I'd ride up to Dover Heights and then come down. And then, that was sort of growing up through that kind of period. But in the canteen, right? In the canteen at the school. So I'd ride my bike up to Dover Heights High School, and I'd put my bike in the canteen at the door because Mrs. Platt used to live there. And I used to
That's
work.
not Platt's mum, is it? Platty's mum.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I would go put my bike there, go and mark my name off, and Mrs. Platt would leave the counter open, and I'd come running up. They ring the bell, and everybody's going to their classes, and I'd come running and slide across the counter where they serve food from one side to the other, and Mrs. Platt would close the thing behind me. Now I was in a safety area. So um, that's so Mrs. Platt became a really big part of, my sort of growing up with Joe Platt and Steve and Michael. Um, anyway, at Bondi, where the trams used to come down in the early days, there was a bridge that went sort of up near where you turn left to go to Mackenzie's. There's sort of that, that area I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah, yeah.
So Mrs. Platt goes, why don't we get the council to build a skate park? Because we were all getting busted for skateboarding, right? All around Bondi. The cops were chasing us. We'd go, we were always on the run from the cops from riding skateboards, right? And Mrs. Platsy goes, why don't get a skate park? No skate parks were even I think America had some, but Australia had none, right? So she thought that place would be unreal because it was owned by the council. And now you see in that place, they've built all these big red units. She made them aware of it. Then they turned around and made units there and made money out of it. And then the kids got nothing. But then we end up getting our skate park, which is in a better spot, which is down on the beach. But Mrs. Platt was the first one to put that idea in the council's mind. So, there's a big upbringing. The biggest thing I'd say about with Bondi would be just the camaraderie that we have. Like we have our divisions because we were in different spots, but it was never a division in like you're in that crew and but like it's like like you down on the third ramp or wherever you were down, sort of down the beach a bit, right? Where did you go? Where would you hang
I
out?
was at North Bondi. I was at
Yeah,
Gromit
sort of down that
school
third
life, and then
ramp sort of thing.
when I moved to South, I was just sitting on the hill all the time, pretty much.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
So
had a
anyway,
hard,
we've always had that camaraderie, no matter where you get your crew or gang
yeah.
was, but we were always like brothers. Like in Bondi, we were half separated, but come out of Bondi, we were fully united.
Mm. Look, I just going back to you talking about Corrigan. There's an old story about Corrigan surfing a wave like from North Bondi to South or something like that. Is that? Can you enlighten me about
I
that?
don't know anything about that, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Mm.
They
It
would
was
have
that
been in
good.
the early days. Steve Corrigan was a great surfer. He went to Bell's and he blew them out of the water. But, he didn't win the contest, but they say he was the best surfer in the contest.
Was that when who's that surfer, the guy that with the beard back in the day that was really good on tour back in the early 80s.
No, this is the mid 70s.
Right.
This is 75, 76.
Mm.
I'll tell you another thing, like um the crew at Bondi, like for us growing up, that whole Baths crew, like they were like an elite club that used to go out and win all these surf contests. They were the best sort of club in Australia at the time, and Victor Ford put it together. And he had Victor Ford, Rob Ford, Ron Ford, and then you had Steve Corrigan, Steve Jones, like was multiple Australian champion, the Kurt Russell, Grant Russell, they were state title holders. So those guys, they all hung at the bars. We like Ant Corrigan and I and Richard Cram, we all had the best guys to watch at our home beach and aspire to. And they were good blokes. Like, they had fun, but they weren't idiots.
That's the thing about Bondi. You always had great guys to look up to, like Greg Day. You had guys like Cookie. You had guys like
Dave Gingell,
Bill Powers. You had PC. So many good guys to
Dave
look.
Davidson,
Yeah, what a great surfer. You know, but
Cole
yeah,
Sutherland.
yeah, so many. Jonesy, Steve, he owns the place next door to the gym I used to own down at Bondi Boxing Gym. It used to be Bondi Olympic, where you walk down the stairs. He owns the cafe that used to be Laurie's, the vegetarian cafe. So
Yep.
it's now a Latino restaurant. It's called Mummy's. And he owns the real estate. He rents it out.
He
But
did really good. Like he went to go on the tour and he was going okay. And so, but then he became the salesman for Rip Curl. And then from there, he got like the Bondi thing, like he got the Bondi Underground. right? With Dave Gingell, they bought the surf shop, which they ended up turned into the Rip Curl shop.
Yeah.
Um, but he did really well from Rip Curl being the first salesman of wetsuits.
Yeah.
So they killed it. Everybody wanted wetsuits in those days because in the early days with wetsuits, they used to be like my first wetsuit was a football jumper.
Mm.
And then
T-shirts
when
you
the
could
long
afford.
johns come in and the vests, I remember going all around Bondi Junction looking for a wetsuit that I could afford because I was on paper. I used to do the paper run,
So did
and
I.
I looked everywhere, and the wetsuits were like 10 to $100, and I found a vest in I think it was in 𝘾𝙝𝙗𝙗. Found a vest in 𝘾𝙝𝙗𝙗 for $10 or $15. So I did two winners in a vest. But my mate, Chris Luder, who he had a long john and a vest, and for the longest time I just went in the vest. And then one day he started to not surf as much, and he'd hang his wetsuit up, and I'd say, "Hey, Chris, can I use your long john?" He'd go, "Yeah, yeah, no worries." So then I started to feel the warmth of a. Then I could surf for longer. It was all about surfing. Guys would always come to the beach and go. I was the mainstay. I grew up on the sand. That was when people say, "Oh, how'd you grow up?" And that, mate, I grew up on the sand.
And obviously living across the road was handy, wasn't it? You were like 100 meters from the beach.
Yeah, I could
Yeah.
just, when I was at Bronny, I used to just go, when I used to have this window that used to open like that, and I used to just sleep on my pillow. And as soon as I opened my eyes, I was looking at Bronny Reef. The very first thing I saw when I opened my eyes. And then when I was about 13, my parents, we moved to Bondi.
Hmm.
But that was, and then being in Lamrock Avenue. It was amazing. Just good. The best upbringing at Bondi. It was so much fun. I quite often I always think about, good mates, good times. It's all I think about in Bondi is just mainly all great days.
Great memories, eh? I remember
I've
going
got
to
a little bit of a cold at the moment, so I caught this cold coming back from Japan. I was going in all the onsens and stuff, so I got a little bit of a cold, bit fluey. Just wait one sec. Better out than in, they say. Hey,
what's that?
better out than in.
Yeah, that's it. Shane, can you tell us a little bit about when you first turned pro? I know there were some memorable moments that we'll talk about, very soon. But can you tell us about the first competition that you entered in and when you turned pro? How was it going on tour?
Look,
Must be life changing.
I flashed on it yesterday when you asked me these questions. It's like I went in the state titles, right? In the Sydney titles, my very first contest, and two kids were 15. You're supposed to be 14 and under. There was Zappa and another guy, and we they were both too old. So basically had won that first contest, but because they didn't show up to the state titles because they knew they were too old and they didn't have the thing. But at that contest, um, this guy, Ollie was his name, he's from Bondi. And he
Ollie.
goes, Shane, meet me on this date, right, at Bondi at like 5 a.m. in the morning. And this is like 2 months later. I'm a 13-year-old kid. I've kept that date in my head. I'm walking over to Bondi, uh, right? And there's not a car on the road. It's 4 in the morning. And I'm going over and I'm thinking, I wonder if he's even going to show up. Like he said to me 2 months before. And being an older guy, they blow things off all the time.
Yeah, a little shady.
So yeah, they could have just blown it away.
Yeah,
So this is my first contest. And so I'm sitting on the hill at Bondi, and I remember Georgie Wales coming down because he went in the Sydney titles, but he never made it through.
George. Yeah,
And George is a great surfer, right? So
yeah.
George goes running, and I only know his name. I don't know him because I'm from Bronny at the time.
Yeah.
So he runs across, and I'm sitting on the hill, and here comes Ollie in his big green Sandman car, and
Yeah.
I am so stoked he's remembered. But had he not turned up, I would have missed that contest and missed. I went to state titles. I ended up finishing third in the state titles. And I met a lot of great guys that I still know today, like Kenny Oliver and a bunch of other guys. So, um, so there in the you say like how was it to become a pro? We had limited opportunity. Now you have the junior pros, you have this junior series, you have the Oki sort of young kids things, you have all these opportunities to make your way into pro surfing. All right. Now in those days, like for instance, George Wales lost in that. So his whole career went out the window. He was a great surfer.
Mm.
He got a couple opportunities later on, but only got close, but didn't really make it. You got to go in the Sydney titles, and if you didn't make it out of the Sydney titles, you didn't get to the state title. Now, if you're in the Sydney title and you're from Bondi and you're Maroubra, Bronny, Coogee, and you don't get through that, then you're finished. Like the rest of the year, you got no contest till next year's Sydney titles. Now, that was how tight the window was to make it. And I only thought about this after I became professional surfer about all the steps that could have gone wrong along the way. I sort of went, wow, if I would have fallen over in the Sydney titles, just say I went in the Sydney titles and didn't get that third wave or had a tight heat or had a lull come in or that's how vulnerable being a pro surfer was in those days. It was not super easy to get there. So anyway, I made all those steps of the way. And one time, like we had the Bondi went in the state titles and we won all the state titles. It was 1976, I think, 75, 76. Coro won the state titles in the cadets. Richard Cram won the under 17s and I won the under 19s, right? So then we went off to the Australian titles in Queensland, and then Ant Corrigan won the from Bondi. All these Bondi, we won the whole lot, and basically first, second, third in all the divisions were nearly all Bondi guys.
Okay.
Right? We took 9 guys away. There was only one guy didn't get a place, right, out of 9, and out that's 9 from Bondi, right? So Ant Corrigan wins the Australian title in the under 15s. Joe Ingle beat Richard Cram
Bingo.
as 17s, but Joe's from Bondi at this stage. He'd moved to Queensland that year, but he was from Bondi. And then and I won the under 19. So we had the red hot crew. So trying to become a pro sparring partners. Like I used to surf with the guys Zappa every day. I used to surf with Crammy. Dion Gaddy was great at that time. Matt Hepworth. All these guys were red hot. So I went when I was 16, I was trying to make it into the pros. And I got this, I was at Dover Heights and I'd still been rocking through school, right? But still only 10 minutes a day, right? So my mum's gone, oh, okay, like I'm going into fifth form, which is 11th year, which means you're going on to university. I was never going to university. I was never a scholar at school. I was only good at the arty kind of stuff. And so mum goes out and buys me all these new clothes for school. And I'm thinking, oh, I don't even know if I'm going to make it through this year, right? And I should tell her. I'm right through buying her because mum's spending her last cents.
Yeah, yeah.
She's saving, everything's to the bone with buying clothes. And there's no money around for any of the kids when we grew up. One pair of shoes, two shirts for the whole weeks of school.
We
You know,
share. We
we grew up
share.
on that. And so mum's buying all this stuff. Anyway, about a week into school, I get my first invite to a pro contest. I'm 16. I get invited into the man-on-man Stubbies event in Queensland. Peter Drawn's putting it on. It's going to be a revolutionary event. Turned out to be like a history-making contest. It was the first man on man. Um, so I get that, and I go to Mum. I said, Mum, can I go? I'll go back to school next year. And my mum just looked at me and she said, "You'll never go back to school." Right? So that's really where my pro surfing all sort of started. From then on, I just kept getting higher and higher and higher. When I was 16, I was number 4 in the world, right? And the the association, I said to Randy, like I was 16, I was coming 4th in the world, and you know, and it was just going to go into my like South Africa, Brazil, all my sort of in the end being all my hot spots where I did well, won contests in all those places. But the Randy Rarick from the IPS, from the main association of international professional surfing, he said, Shane, you're too young to go on tour. We're not letting you go. You won't be able to enter any more contests. So I went from 4th. I ended up finishing that year 27th.
Right.
So that's where it all started for me. And yeah.
Shane, there was some memorable moments that I'd like to touch on. Maybe you can enlighten people watching this back. The first one is the OP Pro when you did that backhand 360. I think
Yeah.
that Huntington Beach. Can you share a little bit about that heat that day when you went in there? Because I remember
Yeah.
for the first time I watched it, there was VHS videos that you could get from your local Kahlua Street. There was a Kahlua Street video shop that I went to, and I borrowed that VHS cassette and I watched it over and over again with you doing that backhand 360, and I was just fucking stoked when I saw you won. Can you share a little bit about that moment?
Yeah, I at that time I was sort of spending a lot of my time in California because of the world tour. You could get everywhere from California easier.
Yeah.
So we were all practicing. There's a guy there called Preston Murray and a Hawaiian guy called 𝙈𝙖𝙮𝙗 Kinimaka, right? And 𝙈𝙖𝙮 and Preston could actually do the backhand 360 before me. And we were surfing together every day trying to practice these 360s, and we get one out of every 20, right? And so I'm in the OP Pro, and I've got Preston as my caddy, who was the guy who was helping me. He actually taught me how to do 360s. And great surfer from California. He's part of that whole when Quicksilver took off in America. He was part of all that. But so anyway, the night before the event, I couldn't sleep. Like I'd beaten MR in the semi-finals. I'd had the hardest run right through it, right? And I'm in the finals. I think I had Tom Curran in the quarterfinals.
Mm.
And so anyway, so I didn't sleep that night. I'm in the finals and I'm still just electrified. It's funny when a lot of contests that I've won over the years, I didn't sleep the night before.
That,
I won the very first state titles. I didn't sleep all night.
that anxious energy, a lot of
Yeah.
people, it's so positive. A lot of people think, oh, you're anxious. And you got, no, I haven't got anxiety. I'm just anxious. I can't wait to get into the ring. I can't wait to make that walk down with that music playing. As you were saying, you couldn't wait for that.
And you can't, you could easily say, oh, I didn't sleep, right? I've got no chance here. But I just would just go, I couldn't wait for the sun to come up and let's get started,
I bet there
right?
was so much dialogue going in your brain, thinking about what you're going to do, picture, you know.
So I used to a lot try and save up my big moves for big moments. So I'm in the final with Sean Thompson and it's tight, right? It's close and it's back and forward. And Sean Thompson was a huge hero in America. They loved him. And I just thought, I was thinking at the time, I've got to, I'm going to have to come up with something big, right? My mate is on the jetty because on the jetty he could tell you waves were coming. Like both Sean and I had somebody on the jetty saying there's a wave outside, and that's what they still do it today. Because
Yep.
you can have someone out past that can see it all coming to you. Anyway, he goes, this is the one. Like you look up, he's going, this is the one. So then you set yourself, and I'm going across this wave, and it's not really conducive to the 360. It's going to close out. It's squaring up, and it's just thick, and it's throwing at different angles. So anyway, the trick with the 360 is to try and be in the top third and then come around and hit it and then come in and and make sure you're looking back in the pit when you're coming in. So anyway, I come around as I'm coming around it. I've come around to here. I'm actually looking out to sea, which is a no-no. You need to be looking back in to bring it all around and look where you're going to go and keep the flow going. And I'm looking like that. And then finally I turn my head and I look down and the thing's just a free fall drop, like an elevator. So I get to here and I just free fall down into it. And as I'm free falling, it's a 10% chance of making it, right? And I land it and I come out and the whole crowd, you could
Erupt.
hear them from Huntington Beach, you could hear them in Bondi, right? So anyway, before I did that move, I was talking to my mate later about it, Preston, and he goes, mate, he goes, when I saw you lining up, I'm going, no, no, no. And he goes, and then I saw you go for it and then you made it. I went, wow, how'd you do that? So then that became history in the way that it was the very first backside 360 ever done in a pro event.
Yeah, that was hectic, man. That was something to look back onto. Would you say that was one of the most memorable moments you ever had in surfing?
Has to be.
Yeah.
And I love California. Like I love Huntington. I go to Huntington and I just have this warmth. Like now they put a star in the ground there for me. Like Hollywood in Huntington Beach, like they do in Hollywood, they have all the surf stars and they put a star there for you.
The Walk of Fame.
The Walk of Fame, yeah.
I mean,
So I'm in there. I'm in there with Pauline Mensa's in there as well. We were both put in the same year.
um, just to think about you walking through the crowd coming up on the beach after that 360 must have been electrifying. It must have been just so amazing, eh?
It was so amazing, mate. And the Californian guys, they just they're part of my biggest sort of fan base still today. Like I have so much respect. They give me so much respect
Mm.
for what I've done in surfing. They kind of, when I went through the crowd, I'll tell you something else about that day, which has to be mentioned. There's a guy called David Naweaver who was the first guy, not the first, but one of the first to ride the twin fin fish in California. I think he might have won the world titles on, or he came close. But David Naweaver, when I first saw David Naweaver, we used to walk from Bondi to Double Bay. They used to have like a movie thing in the summers for like 1 week or 2 weeks where they'd show or show a surf movie for that night. We used to walk from Bondi to Double Bay and walk home. And they go, oh, here's David Naweaver in the semi-finals. So we're all walking back to Bondi going, yeah, David Naweaver in the semi-finals, right? So when I first get to America, I meet David Naweaver. And he's such a nice guy. He looks like he comes out of the Jimi Hendrix era, right? And he's got the long hair. They're coming out of that whole acid era. And he's just a rock star of surfing, and he looks like a rock star, right? And that's the first time I got to meet him. I only ever saw him in 1975, and then I meet him in 1978, right? And anyway, at the OP Pro, his father, see, he's David Naweaver Jr. His father is actually David Naweaver Sr. And his father used to fight to the death in these fights. He had one eye missing. He was blinded in one eye. He used to fight in Japan in these fights for fighting to the death. And he used to be my masseuist for the contest. And he was really more than the massage. He would talk to me in a positive way and just set me. So for those contests, did it for my whole American sort of US Open sort of stuff, the OP Pro turn in. So he would set my mind. So I performed the best I could perform with him in my corner.
That's
David Weaver Senior.
that's
He's dead now, but he's a great ally of mine. He just was just amazing. So that's all part of that whole 360 and winning the first pro contest in the US in 1982.
what great memories. What about the Rip Curl Pro when you won that on the wing keel, the blue board that you had in that relationship with Ben Lexon? Can you tell us a little bit about that time and the fin and how it all came about and winning Rip Curl Pro and ringing that bell? That must have been amazing too.
Yeah, that was amazing. Well, they had the America's Cup and I'd been watching it and we'd been winning the races and then all of a sudden in the race a mast would break or something would happen and we'd be winning the race and the mast would break and then America would overtake. It ended up being 3-all, right? So I go, oh, I've got to watch. And these matches were on telly, but they're on at like 3 in the morning. So it's the last day of the thing, and I wake up and I go, oh, it's like 2:30, 3 o'clock, and I go, oh, the race is on. So I go in and I start watching the race. It's the slowest race ever. There's no wind. And anyway, we're like 2 minutes ahead or something, and we're coming into the finish line, and the sail starts going like this, and I'm going, oh no, don't break, right? Because we're winning, all right? No, and they've been hiding the boat the whole time. No one knows what's in the boat. The boat's like this mystery design. And anyway, so we win it, and then they bring the wing keel out of the water, and they show everybody the wing keel. And Ben Lexon designed it, Alan Bond funded it, and they just had a great team of people to win the America's Cup, the first time they'd beaten America over 50 years. So um, I got a mate of mine, Kerry Bindon. He calls up. Um, he said he rings up Ben and he says, Shane Horan's a surfer, gives him a bit of an explanation who I am. He wants to adapt the wing keel to surfing. So Ben says, Ben, stop that. Ben says to me, so I go and see Ben. And then Ben's telling me about how he got into design. He used to do these boats as a little kid. He'd block the water off and unblock it and have these sailboats just go down the gutter as him as a little boy, right? That's how he got into it. But then he explained to me that he used to shape for Gordon Woods, who were in Brookvale. He was one of their shapers. So originally he's a surfer shaper. So then we got the connection of being surfers. So you get the Bondi connection. Surfers have this connection. You say, oh, I'm a surfer. All of a sudden you have this connection with somebody, right? So then we got connected like that. And then he taught me all about the hydrodynamics. He taught me about materials and their strengths and how they work. And he says, look, Shane, carbon is only stronger than fiberglass when you have 3 layers, and I see all these guys going, oh, the board's so strong now, it's only got 1 layer. It can't be stronger. They've already done all that testing for these major boats that they make, these $100 million boats, right? So there's so much more technology gone into sailing. So Ben then goes, Shane, he draws this fin and he tells me all about how the wing keel creates the lift. And you see all the guys with foil boarding today, how fast they're going, right? That's all Ben Lexon stuff, right? So, and it's speed, like it's lift. You're coming out of the water, so your board's not touching, so you're going faster. So there was the board. So the board was good. The first time I tested it out, I went down to Bondi and I was built it in January 1984, December 1983, December 1984 I built it. And then um, it was made because we used carbon and I wasn't a great at that stage. I didn't have a fin plate or anything. So I've made this thing that I could cut the fin out of, but it had all these lumps in it. So when I sanded it down and had the wings joined together, joined on, it had all these lumps in it. So I got some carbog and filled them all up and just made it all just perfect, right? It was so then we got the wing keel and I'm at Bondi and this guy drops in on me and I just go right around him and flying down the line. And it's going so fast. So then I'm working with Ben a few days later or a week later and he's going, how's it going? What's happening with it? And I'm saying, mate, it's going so fast. And he goes, do you feel it popping out of the water? Do you feel it jumping, wanting to come up out of the water? And I said, mate, I don't know what I feel. All I know is I'm just going faster than everyone in the water, right? So then I go down to Bell's and I have some insane heats. And then it comes down to the final with Tom Carroll. And in the first one, we're out on the bowl and it's like 4 to 6 feet. And I just catch the three best waves. And in California, um, oh no, we're in Japan. I was in this heat with Tom Carroll, and I had priority, and he coached me in to inside, and then he got the wave that won the heat, right, in Japan. So I thought if he ever does that to me again, I'm just going to take off. So he's coaxing me in, but I'm aware of what he's doing. So I'm sort of going in. So he paddles out to this set and goes like this, and I paddle out to the set and I just drop in. And it's my priority. So I ride the wave to the beach. So I've had three great waves plus that one. And there's about 15 minutes to go in the heat, but I've already won the heat. So I come in. I get dried. I know how important it is to get warm in these events. Like if you're in the cold, you want to have dry wetsuits and stuff. So I come in, I get dried. I'm 15 minutes dry. Then the next event, so it's the best of three. So the next one is out at Rincon. And I'm just feeling like my board's flying, but I don't feel like I'm doing all the maneuvers that like these guys are doing thrusters. So I'm trying to ride this board like a thruster and it's not a thruster. So I'm sort of in this weird kind of space of just trying, what do I do on this board? I'm still learning the board. I'd only been riding it for 3 months. Like these guys who drive Formula One racing cars, they drive their cars for 6 months and a year before they take them on the racetrack. And so anyway, I surf against Tom Carroll and just waxed him 2-0 all over. Tom Carroll just won the world title that day. He
He
wins
was
that
running
day.
hot those years.
Hey?
Was running hot those years. He was surfing.
Yeah, red hot. But with yeah, so um so then that's the story, mate. And then I won the 1984 Bells contest on an unconventional fin that I still ride today. I still think it's the fastest fin today.
That was one particular wave where it was just breaking and you were just trying to make one section to another in that particular. I remember on that blue board at Bells and you were just roller coasting down the line and the speed that you were getting was just like, fuck.
Next level.
Yeah.
And it was so easy where Tom Carroll was trying to get across, doing everything he could, and he couldn't get to the end section because thrusters just don't go as fast as the wing kill.
Incredible,
Mm.
incredible. Shane, I know you're doing some great work with the board shaping that you're doing and the surf schools that you're running. Can you tell us a little bit about that and anybody that wants to know about that?
Yeah, well, I was at Bondi. I used to coach at Bondi, and then when I was in Hawaii, they came up with the the tender for to have a license. Before that, coaching, we used to coach everywhere. Like I started coaching in Bondi in 1976. I was the first guy coaching in Bondi. Oh, well, I won't say that. I'll say Victor Ford was.
Victor Ford.
Victor Ford was coaching from the early 70s to mid 70s. I started coaching from the mid 70s on. I come back from Hawaii, and the guys say, "Oh, you're not allowed to coach down there anymore." Well, we put a license out, and some girl got it, and I said, "But I'm just going to go down and do it." And they said, "Well, if you go down, we're going to we're going to hassle you."
Council's going to
I
fine
should
you.
have I should have gone and pushed it to the point because I was the first coach in Bondi. But what I did is I went to I came to the Gold Coast. I put a thing in for the Gold Coast. Can I get a license? They said we'd love to have you here. So I got a license overnight,
Who wouldn't?
basically.
Who wouldn't
Yeah.
love to have you there? Um,
Yeah.
that's the thing with everything here. It becomes such a big part of commodity. You got to have a license to do personal training. You got to have a license for anything that you do here. It's just.
So it's become like that, but it was never like that. Like when we grew up, it was just you wanted to help people out, you just helped them out.
Mm.
Now you've got to have a license, insurance, the whole lot. So, anyway, the school's going. It's in Surfers Paradise. It's been going ever since then for a long time. When I very first did learn to surf, I went along to a learn to surf class with Surfing Australia, and their class was, oh, um, pop up on the beach, now get out there. That was it. They never taught people how to get out and how to catch waves. I developed that. I developed the how to get out to a wave, turn around, and how to catch it for a beginner. So I've spent a lot of time coaching, and all the surf schools around the world are using my techniques. They're basic, and they seem like, oh, that just is common sense. It wasn't common sense in the start. They were just, the main association, Surfing Australia, pop up on the beach, now get out there. And I saw all these guys getting smashed by boards, and I was just going, mate, that's not right. And then when I started to teach people how to get out, turn around safely, and catch a wave safely, and keeping it safe in a group, keeping them spread out, not in all hunched up. And so that's where that started. My brother Stephen runs the surf school here. I do the private lessons. We've been doing it for a long time. But now I've been, like, for the past 15, 20 years, I've been shaping surfboards, and I've been into designing surfboards like with Jeff McCoy since, like, the very first board I shaped was in 1972. That was the first one. And then I made some boards with Greg Webber. We used to make them at the back of Bondi, and
Yeah,
we
yeah.
were killing it. And then McCoy said to me, mate, if you keep, um, you know, making all these boards, then you may as well ride your own boards. And I wanted to ride McCoy's. So Jeff and I worked together for a long time on design. And then I went around the world. I worked with Al Merrick. I worked with every great shaper in the whole world. And then in that time, I learned all this stuff, plus learning the stuff from Ben Lexington. And I believe my surfboards are the fastest boards on the planet. I believe that. And because of the stuff I learnt with Ben Lexington.
Is
And
there less lift on your boards than other boards? Or is not just the
my boards are different to everybody's boards.
Mm.
They're a blend of 50 years of design. In the 70s and 80s, we were experimenting with widths and noses and curves and bottom rockers and everything, 70s and 80s. In the 90s, we knew what we put this in the board, we knew the effect we were getting. Now I know exactly what I put in, what it's going to do. Kelly Slater comes up to me and he says, Shane, look at my boards and tell me what you think they do. And he had like three boards in the back of his car. I've had worked a lot with Kelly over the years since he was 14 years old. And anyway, I pull these boards out and I just look at the curves, I look at the rails, and I just look at how the combinations, how they're working together. And I tell him how this is going to turn here, it'll stop there, it'll flow through here, it'll go fast here, and I just, because of this, because of that. And he goes, mate, that's exactly how they go. Well, like each board that I commented on, and I can look at a board, and guys come up to me because I only make custom boards. I've got a board that's around. It's called the Rad Zapper. I did it with Matt Biolis, and it's a fantastic board. We made a board to go in surf shops. They're in all the lost accounts, and that's for a board that someone can go in and go, wow, this is a great board for me, right? But outside of that, I do custom boards. So I make a board for the guys, and all I get is great reviews. Like a guy goes yesterday, I get more waves, it fits like a glove. Another guy, 3 reviews I got yesterday. One guy goes, Shane, I just feel like I'm at one with this surfboard. It just fits. It's going so fast. And then another guy from South Australia just ordered another one and just said, mate, this is I'm going faster than I've ever gone. And
Yeah.
that's what I get. And the other day I came out of the shaping bay and I was looking because I overlook the ocean here. You know, I could see in the background, but I look out at the ocean. It kind of balms me out and makes me feel peaceful. And I'm sitting there and I have this flash. It's such a great job shaping surfboards for people and making people feel happy. Like that's what I do.
Yeah.
I make people feel happy. And
Mm,
it
it's
mate,
lovely.
it's the best feeling.
Yeah. That's you can see it with your energy, with the way you described it, Shane. It's so cool to know about the great work that you're doing. Shane, before we finish off today, I know we could speak for ages. We both grew up in Bondi. You're a little bit older than me. My family migrated to Australia to Bondi back in 79. So I've been there for close to 46, 47 years, going to 47 years. But Shane, I'm sure there's a lot of people looking back, watching this when we post it, that are going to ask, how do I get in contact with Shane? If I want a board shaped, or if I want to learn about his surf school. So are you able to share with us your Instagram handles or your website that people can go to and get in contact with you?
Good on you. Thanks, Maynard. Yeah, you can go to Shane Horan Surfboards as the website for the surfboards. You can go to shanehoran.com.au for the surf school if you're coming up to Surfers Paradise for any sort of surfing needs. And if you want to just get on quick, you go on to Instagram, and then if you put in there that, I'm interested, I want to get a board, I always get back to the people as a private message. It's a surfer to surfer thing. There's no one in between us, and I put a lot of time into making sure I understand what they want for the board. So it's go Instagram's probably my number one, where it's real easy to talk back and forward.
That's a great, Shane. And there you go, everyone. Talking with the legend himself, Shane Horan. I'm honored to be to have your company and to have your time today to talk to me about some of your journey. As I said, I'm sure there's so much more we could talk about, and perhaps we can do it another time. But to everybody watching us and watching this back, have an amazing week. Take care, and we'll see you next time.